Good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. The government is taking a tough stance against the proliferation of businesses set up by illegal foreigners across the country. Housing and Local Government Minister Nga Kok Meng says local councils have been revoking licenses previously granted to illegal foreign traders.
Nga added that his ministry is taking enforcement actions against businesses that misuse their licenses in this manner. The Housing and Local Government Ministry, together with local councils, have conducted 1,539 enforcement operations in 2023. As a result, a total of 26,108 business licenses have been revoked as of November 2023. Nga's comment came as a response to a question on the increasing number of stalls and businesses being operated by foreigners in Malaysia. He said the ministry is also ready to cooperate with other ministries to go on the ground as part of efforts to stop illegal businesses operated by non-Malaysians.
The Housing and Local Government Ministry is also studying a new format of organizing open architectural design competitions for future public housing projects. Its Minister Nga Kok Meng said this would ensure the designs for these housing units feature beautiful, sustainable, livable designs with humanity values.
He said the idea followed the success of the Malaysian Institute of Architects and Seberang Perai City Council Architectural Design Ideas Competition pilot project for the Bukit Mertajam market. Nga, however, said a feasibility study would be carried out first to determine if the model for the market's architectural design competition can be used for the PPR. He said this was because the majority of the PPRs are stratified buildings, while markets were mainly two-story buildings.
The collapse of a crane at the Rawang train station in Selangor 3 weeks ago was due to a contractor's failure in following safety procedures. According to Transport Minister Anthony Loh, the incident incurred 2.4 million ringgit of losses for Keretapi Tanah Melayu Berhad KTMB, with disruption of train services involving more than 20,000 passengers.
Krain itu berada di zon bahaya tanpa kebenaran JKR. Okay. Yang dibenarkan ialah kawasan krain di sini. Ialah di luar bangunan itu, di luar struktur bangunan itu. Mereka masuk ke kawasan yang tidak dibenarkan, zon bahaya yang hanya bersebelahan dengan landasan. Tidak ada buffer zone langsung krain tersebut. Jadi krain itu kedudukan di atas sini, apabila boom itu jatuh betul-betul di atas landasan.
Loh said the contractor had been issued a stop work order with the Land Public Transport Agency to look into what action can be taken against the contractor. He also warned all contractors to follow safety rules to prevent tragedies. On December 12th last year, a crane that was used in the construction of a multi-level car park project had fallen onto the railway tracks in between Rawang and Guang, serving the overhead line.
A law overseeing any potential mergers is set to be introduced later this year. According to the Malaysia Competition Commission, MyCC, the merger control legislation regulating mergers of a certain size is targeted for tabling during the Parliament sitting in June.
Speaking to The Star, Chief Executive Officer Iskandar Ismail said the law is currently about 80% complete, adding that it would be carried out through amendments to the Competition Act 2010. Under the merger control law, any companies intending to merge will have to go through MyCC. Iskandar said the value of the mergers must also cross a certain threshold, adding that it could amount into the hundreds of millions. He said the overall objective of the law is to ensure that there is no lessening of competition in the market due to cartels or monopolies.
Meanwhile, the federal government has agreed to hand over regulatory power on Sabah's electricity supply to the state government. Minister of Energy Transition and Public Utilities, Dato Sri Fadilah Yusof, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister, says the decision is part of the government's effort to honour the Malaysia Agreement 1963.
The first phase of the handover involves regulatory control over the state's power supply, which came into effect on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the second phase, involving the handover of Sabah Electricity Sendirian Berhad (SESB) is expected to be completed in 2030. According to the ministry, this transfer of regulatory power will enable Sabah to independently plan and implement development of power supply in the state. The ministry added that it hoped with this handover, the Sabah state government would be committed to tackling the power distribution issue in the state, as well as meet the increasing demand. On October 13th last year, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the federal and Sabah state governments had reached an agreement on the handover of regulatory control of power supply, effective January 3rd, 2024.
We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Tekanan boleh mematahkan anda, tetapi ia juga memberi semangat dan mengangkat impian kita. Keberanian adalah anugerah dalam menghadapi tekanan dan kita akan buktikannya. Piala Asia Qatar 2023 ke semua 51 perlawanan secara langsung di Astro.
Welcome back. There have been no reports of Malaysians involved in the bombings at the Kerman cemetery in Iran yesterday, according to the Foreign Ministry. The bombings claimed at least 95 lives and left several hundreds injured.
The Foreign Ministry in a statement said the Malaysian embassy in Tehran is closely monitoring developments and actively liaising with local authorities. The ministry urged all Malaysians in Iran, particularly in the city of Kerman, to be aware of the latest developments, take due precautions, and adhere to travel advisories. The statement said Malaysia strongly condemns the bombings, firmly rejects any acts of violence and terrorism, and calls for perpetrators of the attack to be brought to justice. It also said Malaysia expressed its deepest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families who have lost their loved ones in this tragedy, as well as to the government and people of Iran. Iran state media reported at least 95 people have been killed by 2 bomb explosions near the tomb of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani on the 4th anniversary of his assassination by the US. There were no immediate claims from any groups for what was believed to have been the deadliest such attack in Iran in 42 years.
Meanwhile, no Malaysians residing in Japan were affected by the earthquake in central Japan and the aircraft fire at the Haneda airport this week. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Mohamad Hassan said he is in close contact with the Japanese embassy in Malaysia and his counterparts in Japan for the latest updates on the 2 incidents.
He added that Malaysia is prepared to offer its assistance if needed by Japan. On Tuesday, a Japan Airlines aircraft collided with a Coast Guard aircraft while landing at the Haneda airport, causing both aircraft to catch fire, killing 5. The Coast Guard airplane was transporting relief goods to Niigata Prefecture after a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck central Japan on Monday evening, triggering a tsunami wave of more than a meter.
On to updates in Gaza. The official death toll of Palestinians in Gaza has climbed to 22,313, with 57,296 others injured since October 7, 2023. In the past 24 hours alone, at least 128 Palestinians were killed and 261 others wounded in Israeli attacks. Israel bombarded areas near the Al-Mawasi evacuation zone overnight on Thursday, an area where the military instructed Palestinians to shelter. At least 16 people killed and a number of people injured in an Israeli bombing of a home near that area was destroyed. Israel had fired more than 45,000 missiles and bombs into Gaza, with a total weight of over 65,000 tons since the breakout of the latest round of violence. Japan Airlines expects losses of around $105 million after one of its planes was destroyed in a collision with a Coast Guard aircraft at Tokyo's Haneda airport. The airline is also discussing compensation individually with passengers, 2 of whom had pets that died in the incident.
The airline said it was assessing the impact on its earnings forecast for the financial year ending March 31st. It is the first hull loss worldwide for the A350 model, which entered commercial service in 2015. All 379 people on board the flight were safely evacuated, but 5 of the 6 crew on the Coast Guard plane were killed. Hundreds of passengers remained stranded at the airport after flights in and out of Haneda were either cancelled or delayed since Tuesday's crash. Transcripts released by the authorities showed that the passenger jet was given permission to land, but the smaller plane had not been cleared for takeoff. The Japan Transport Safety Board is leading the safety investigation with 14 foreign investigators, while police are conducting their own probe into possible professional negligence in the case.
Still in Japan, 3 people were injured in a stabbing incident on a train at Akihabara Station in Tokyo, Japan. The suspect, a woman in her 20s, was taken into custody and admits to boarding the train with the intention of killing others.
The incident occurred around 11 p.m. on Wednesday night. The woman was arrested by police on suspicion of attempted murder and did not appear to know the victims. Authorities recovered a kitchen knife on the floor of the train and another from her bag. Local media also reported that the woman suffered from a mental illness.
In other news, hospitals in at least 4 U.S. states have reinstated mask mandates for both patients and providers amid a rise in COVID-19 cases and other respiratory illnesses. These include healthcare facilities in New York, California, Massachusetts, and Illinois.
According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there were over 29,000 COVID-19 hospitalizations across the U.S. from December 17th to 23rd, a 16% increase from the previous week. This was the 7th consecutive week of increases and the highest number reported since late January 2023. Mask mandates have been a political issue during the pandemic, sparking a series of debates around medical advice and individual freedom. More than 1.1 million Americans have died from the virus so far.
A man who was denied probation attacked a judge during his sentencing in a Nevada courtroom on Wednesday. In courtroom video, the defendant was seen leaping over the courtroom bench, sparking a bloody brawl with staff members.
30-year-old Deobra Redden was in court in Las Vegas for a sentencing hearing on Wednesday morning after pleading guilty to several offences, including attempted battery. Moments before the attack, Redden was pleading to Clark County District Judge Mary Kay Holhus to show lenience and not send him to prison. When she denied his request, Redden yelled expletives and leapt over the judge's bench, with Mary seen falling back from her seat, suffering some injuries. A court marshal who came to Mary's aid was also injured and taken to a hospital where he was believed to be in a stable condition.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.